Good morning. Thank you very much, Mazina. Very friendly, and thank you very much for making this possible. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I'm very happy that we have part of this event in Poland, which, as Ian pointed out earlier, I think is a very inspiring example of actually getting things done and setting an example of how we deal positively with demographic change. So that's a great pleasure. And as this is the last event of that roadshow exercise and may I say adventure that we've had throughout the year, I also want to thank Ian and Alex for organizing these things and for making it possible and for showing great enthusiasm. What I would like to do is give you a bit of a background why the European Commission is involved in this, is driving this, why we think it is worthwhile putting effort into thinking about how we want to live in the future. There are certain sort of political backgrounds and an impetus that goes into this. I will just... Sorry for this. I was saying that there is a sort of political impetus behind it. And first of all, there is the recognition and the acknowledgement that demographic change is something that does not only affect one country. In Europe, it affects the whole of the European Union and beyond. It is a phenomenon that we see in all the countries, despite different birth rates between the countries, but the aging of societies is something that we have to look at together. And of course, it would be a lie to say that it's not a challenge. Of course it is a challenge. It is a challenge for health and care systems. It is a challenge for integration. It is a challenge, a cultural challenge. But at the same time, there is also a recognition that we have the capacity as Europe to turn this into an opportunity of several kinds, an opportunity of integration, of development as a society, but also as an economic opportunity. The challenge in health and care systems is met with these opportunities. We have serious changes in labor markets and employment, and the principle that is behind all of this must always be the quality of life of European citizens. And that is something where we have a lot to do, a lot of cohesion to do, a lot of growing together to do, and this is something that must be regarded together with demographic change. You see here the Commissioner for the Digital Agenda and the Digital Society, but we have a sort of joint initiative with other portfolios, specifically industry and growth, employment, and innovation. So these are the political drivers behind this. What are we looking at? We're looking at, we keep talking about age-friendly homes. The picture you see here indicates both an approach to a solution, but also a problem. An approach to a solution is thinking about things like accessibility. How do we make sure that the built environment caters for older people? At the same time, we're not only talking about old people. By the way, that's an expression that covers a lot of ground and is not very accurate. At the same time, we see here that loneliness and isolation is also a problem. So we have to take a bit more of a general approach here, and not only talk about accessibility. It is something that covers a lot more. It covers personal spaces, the personal development. I think Alexander will mention something about this later. And we have to talk about living environments that are suitable for all ages. Age agnostic is another phrase that is sometimes used, adaptable. And I think this sort of inaccurate use of terms is something that we can also discuss today. It's a question of defining what we want to do, and using the right words for that is one part of it. At the same time, if we want to highlight that it's about the aging of societies, the word age-friendly will come up all the time. So, at the same time, we have to see that it's as much about the own home as it is about long-term care. It's about care homes. So these are to be seen as an integrated solution. I represent a Director General of the European Commission that deals with the digital society and digital developments. Something that has been around for a few years now is the idea of smart homes, sometimes referred to as connected homes. And this is really now taken off. We have products on the market, we have the Internet of Things, but at the same time in public discourse or when you talk to your peers, a lot of times what you get is the idea, smart home, that is a fridge that knows when I'm out of milk. It's a lot more than that, and that is also what we need to talk about, how we make that usable not only as a gadget, but actually to help our aging societies. So bringing these things together, that was one of the main ideas of the roadshow and of the initiative to take that forward. So let's look at the principles behind it. So what are the drivers for this? One main driver, based on the challenge for health and care systems, is the idea that we need to look at care that's shifting more to the home and away from institutionalization. We just heard, and it's true, that in many cases care homes are something that we need to consider. People want to be living in the safety of a care home. At the same time, there's a lot of agreement, and we heard a lot about this throughout the year at the roadshow, that people want to stay at home for as long as possible. So the living environment at home has to adapt to that. So we have the opportunities, as Ian was pointing out, with the technology. It's there. We have to apply it. We have to make it interoperable. And the solutions that we need is we need to make people believe in that, and that also means we have to make people invest in it. It is an investment. We need to change needs investment. So that is something that we see as a necessary condition for large-scale rollout of age-friendly homes across Europe. And the opportunities then also lie in the economic part. So when we make sure that these investments are made, that it's European industry that can generate jobs and growth, which is one of the main headlines, of course, of European policy making at the moment, and we think this should go hand in hand with the integration in the digital single market, which is another great policy initiative that is related to this. So, to illustrate that this is also not something that was cooked up in by some faceless bureaucrats in Brussels in a dark room, it is something that already comes out of consultation with stakeholders. The European Commission has worked with a stakeholder-driven initiative which is called the European Innovation Partnership on Active and Healthy Aging for the last 4.5 years. And the potential that lies in mutual learning and exchange about experiences that have been implemented at the regional and local level is overwhelming. We get a lot of very positive feedback about this, about the added value of exchanging experiences, and this is one of the great ideas of this roadshow as well, to take what is happening in one of the countries, in one of the regions, see what works there, maybe also what doesn't work there, take it into the other one, and see how we can compare and how we can learn from each other. There was a big event in March 2015, which was called the European Innovation Summit on Active and Healthy Aging, and the stakeholders and the Commission discussed, and we had a lot of different kinds of stakeholders there. And one of the results was basically the task to go ahead with this, to implement this European reference framework for age-friendly housing, because it is one of the enablers of the silver economy, but also one of the enablers of the headline target of better quality of life for European citizens. So basically what we're doing here is we're doing our homework. And you're part of it, and I'm very glad that you are. And speaking about the opportunity, I just want to show you one curve which basically illustrates how the smart devices market has taken up already in the last few years. And this is a curve that continues to grow. So this is seriously an opportunity that we need to use, and we're now at the right point in time where we can make sure that this is used for the right purpose. So we're implementing that in the homes, and we make the solutions interoperable and safe, which is also an issue that we need to talk about. Are we the only ones working on this? Of course not. We heard that Poland is putting a lot of emphasis on it, and we have examples of other member states that are already putting money into this as well. So, small examples, there are more of that, but the financing that I was mentioning, that is something that, for example, France and Germany have tackled already. So in France, the Ministry of Social Affairs has set up a scheme for subsidies for age-friendly adaptations, and similarly in Germany, the KfW Bank, which is a promotional bank in Germany, they have set up an low-interest loan scheme and subsidies also for age-friendly adaptations. There are limitations to that, because in many cases this is only limited to accessibility. So basically making wider door frames, having floor-level showers. But increasingly, both the policymakers and the providers and the users are asking for digitalization of these things. So that's where we also need to have a lot of work to do. Actually, in Germany, we have a case where there is sort of like a petition that asks for integration of digitalization into the age-friendly retrofitting and building schemes. So, I already mentioned the case for collaboration. I think what we really need to make sure is that we're talking about future-proof homes. I was very happy to hear that the idea is sort of gaining ground that we're talking about ourselves. It's our own future that we're talking about, and digitalization is part of that as well. And the investment that is needed is something that is not only from the public sector, but also from the private sector. It needs to be both. It needs to be complementary. And this is, again, an issue that affects the whole of Europe. And what we want to find out, what we want to define something, is what does it take to actually make that take off. And how do we do it? The European Commission has taken quite a bit of money into their hands already. We're currently launching a large-scale pilot project on the Internet of Things for active and healthy aging. We're quite glad that we managed to have this issue as a first large-scale implementation area for the Internet of Things. And we're giving 20 million euros to a very large consortium that implements this large-scale pilot. And at the same time, the AAL program was mentioned earlier on. There are other European programs and national programs that need to be coordinated. There's a lot going on in this area, and it's great to hear and great to see, and we hear that in Poland there's a lot going on as well. And that's why we're reaching out to these different initiatives, including industry, including small, medium-sized enterprises, to work on what we call a blueprint for innovation on active and healthy aging. And Ian was mentioning the summit in December, on the 6th and 7th and 8th of December. This is where this blueprint, a first rough version of that, will be presented and discussed with stakeholders. And yes, I do extend an invitation to all of you. If you have the time and the interest, you're very welcome to join us. There will be about 2,000 attendees in Brussels to discuss this. Just one recommendation, make sure that you're quick to register, because it's filling up very quickly. And the reference framework that we're working on today and that we're taking into that summit as well, it will be part of the blueprint. It's one of those sort of first implementation initiatives. That is something that we want to have at a stable state by the end of 2018. So that's sort of the roadmap that we have, and I think this is a start, and we are continuing our conversation. I very much look forward to the discussions today, and to interaction as well, and I wish all of you, and all of us actually, a very fruitful day, and thank you for your attention.